So everyone, welcome. Thank you so much. We're super excited to have you guys here today. My name is Morgan with Savvy STR Agents. Today we're going to be covering our Smoky Mountains market. This area here, we specially exclusively invest in short-term rental properties. Today we're spotlighting one of the most well-known and consistently talked about markets here for short-term rentals. This market continues to attract investors because of its tourism demand, year-round occupancy, strong cabin performance, and the unique opportunity to create both cash flow and long-term appreciation. I'm joined here today with Bradley and Brienne, who work directly with investors in the Smoky Mountains market every single day. On this call, we're going to break down, why investors continue to target the Smokies, what the numbers actually look like here, what separates average cabins from top performers, and also how investors should approach this market from a strategic standpoint in today's environment. Quick note for everyone watching, if you guys have any questions throughout the webinar here, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll answer the questions, kind of throughout the experience here or at the end as well. But yeah, so guys, Bradley and Brienne, super excited to have you here. Before we jump into the market, I'd love for you guys just to kind of both introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your background working with the Smokies STR market.
Perfect. I'm Brienne. I've been with Savvy for almost 2 years now. Been doing the Smoky Mountain market for the last 3 years. And all of it has been short-term rentals. So when I moved here, that's kind of what I got started on. I was originally living in Montana and very similar in terms of style, cabins. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I came over here on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So kind of same with me. My name's Bradley K. Goodman. I've been in the Smokies market for a little over 5 years now. Working exclusively with investors. Savvy, I've been with basically since about the beginning of the year. And yeah, we're just rocking and rolling over here.
Awesome. Great. Well, super to happy to have you guys. I know that we're going to bring a ton of value during this conversation today. If you guys have any, specific things that you'd like to share, feel free to jump in. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of roll off here and start asking you guys a couple questions. We'll develop a conversation, and then from there, we'll just kind of take it. Okay. So here's the first one. So for someone who is completely new to the Smokies market, how would you describe like the overall appeal to this area?
So I would say in general, the appeal is going to be the outdoors and families. It really ties families in together. And so you kind of get both of best worlds. If people want to come with families and enjoy Dollywood and explore all of the amenities that Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg have to offer, that's great. But then you also get the other side where people are wanting to come and do hiking and rafting and do all the outdoor stuff too and go to the Smoky Mountains. And so you really attract two different types of clientele because tourists are have endless possibilities. Where most people, it's either one or the other. So we have two different options here for that.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you, Brienne. Yeah. I mean, this market here, it seems like there's a lot of things that are kind of driving your occupancy percentages and ADRs. Is that right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And so you are going to depending on the type of cabin that you're interested in and the type of investment that you're interested in, it's really gonna depend on the location and what amenities that cabin has to offer. And so if you jump into a cabin that is gonna be closer to the strip or something within a closer distance to all the amenities, then you're really gonna wanna position your cabin to have the amenities that kids and families are looking for: bunk rooms, theme rooms, arcades, pools, that type of thing. If you're looking for more of smaller properties that are going to be more secluded for camping, hiking, trails, anything like that, the cabin's obviously going to look a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. That makes tons of sense. And I mean, one thing that we always talk about on our market match calls is the experience that you like to provide for your guests. So kind of figuring out your niche is pretty big. But yeah, I mean, for like first time investors, entering into this market, or seasoned investors who are just looking to scale and expand their portfolio, what kind of goals do you typically see your investors looking to achieve as far as, cash flow, appreciation, lifestyle investment, or like portfolio growth? Which one do you think is like the biggest?
I think the biggest thing. Oh, go ahead.
You go. You got it.
I think the biggest thing whenever investors come to me, they come with the same expectation, and that is they want to see proven revenue. Like they don't really care, like they care obviously what kind of return it is, but they more than anything, they just want to see that proven revenue, right? And while I get, the comfortability behind that, I always tell my investors we need to pivot our goals here and we need to focus on what potential cash flow a property can produce and the potential return that it can produce versus what it's done in the past. Because let's say that we even do find one that's doing amazing and doing the numbers that you're looking for as a like as an investor, you're still like it's still going to go down in that first year because you're starting over as a brand new host. And that first year is always a down year because you're starting from scratch with your reviews and in the algorithm on the rental sites and all that. So whenever we're looking at what kind of return metrics, we want to do at least a 15% ROI gross. And I think a good rule of thumb for investors, because we do deal with some new investors, so just a good rule of thumb would be um, the purchase price divided by 7. So that's just a good little tip to have.
Excellent. That's super helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of people here. Yeah, go ahead, Brienne.
And I think too, what I have to talk about with almost every single introduction call is a lot of people think you can just jump into this market, buy a property, and it's ready to go and it's turnkey. And so, what's really important is what we tell them is that a lot of properties, we do a lot of seller credits in the Smokies. And so, a lot of properties may not be your ideal property when you're looking at it, but if it has potential, if we're able to get seller credits, if we're able to make the revenue boosted on that, then we're going to give you the strategies to do so. Because some properties that look beautiful and is priced right could be a little bit further out. And then the revenue just isn't there. So if we can find something that is in a good location with what is fitting your goals and we're able to boost that property up and add some amenities and add some changes to that, we're going to kind of push that because at the end of the day, we want you.
I think we lost you there, Brienne. Uh, that's all right. We'll just kind of keep rolling here. But yeah, so that's all super helpful information for our investors here. I know a lot of people are wondering, like, what kind of budget does it typically take to enter a market in the Smokies? How much budget they should save allocated for design, renovation, and value add. Um, Bradley, I was curious, like, what kind of homes are you seeing in your inventory out there right now?
So you can typically get a 1 bedroom, 1 bath anywhere from the high fours all the way up into the 700s. And what makes that for that variety in the market, I guess you could say, is you just got like your basic 1 bedrooms, which will be in kind of that 500 price point, and it's really, really tough unless you have the extra cash on hand or we get to a large seller credit. It's really tough to try and make those cash flow. You're going to get more in your cash flow and you're going to get your most optimal investment. Really looking for your 5 bedroom plus. Um, and if not that, a 2 bedroom pool cabin. That's our biggest ones. And so your entry price, if you're just looking for something, just basic return metrics, but you've got the cash for it, to make it really a profitable investment. That would definitely be a 1 bedroom, 1 bath with maybe 50,000 to throw into it. Um, and then you could probably get you one of those for around 5 to 600 on average. And then the ones we push the most, which are 5 bedroom plus, your most profitable ones are going to be 1.3 million and higher in price. And that's where you're also going to see your highest returns.
Mm, wow, that's great. And I know, like, at the end of the day, like you said earlier, what's really driving most investors to this area is the opportunity for the returns on their investment. And I know, like, one thing. Hey there, Brian. Glad to have you back.
Sorry, technical glitch, technical
No
glitch.
worries. No worries. That's quite all right. But yeah, I mean, with all that being said here, looks like we do have some questions kind of jumping in the chat. Before we get to those, we'll just kind of wrap up that last one there. Brianne, we were just kind of covering like what the inventory is looking like in the area, what like intro price points are like, how much budget investors should save allocated for renovation and design and amenity add. Bradley was saying typically we're looking at homes, single family homes around 400, wise to have an allocated budget of around like 50,000 for, renovation and kind of updating appliances and things like that. Did you have anything to say about that also?
No, I mean, I think that's very on key with the area and what is needed. Out of that too, we always try to do our very best to get the seller credit so that it's less money out of pocket for our buyers and they're able to get these items done through negotiations on a contract. So
Great, great. Cool. And then like, you know, obviously like this is one of the big questions that we always get. And one of the reasons why people love, the Smokies so much is because it is, a year-round desirable market. We have a question from Raj. Actually, Raj, I'm pretty sure we just spoke the other day. Nice to see you in the chat here. But like, what are about like the off-season markets, right? So does it typically like how cold does it get out there? Do you guys still see bookings throughout the winter time? Um, you know, do you guys have like a peak season or, are you seeing like a year-round, steady cash flow for your short-term rentals in this area?
I mean, typically, and Bradley, you can kind of jump on if you have anything else on there, but January and February are technically the slower seasons for the short-term rentals, just because like Dollywood shut down and it's a little cooler. And then holidays just ended, so a lot of people are not spending as much money. So that's why the amenities and everything associated with how your cabin is. Are you using revenue manager? Are you have a good property manager? All that plays in to effect. But I had clients who have sent me multiple multiple times their bookings, and they're booked pretty year round, even in January and February. So if you do things right and you use the vendors who we suggest that we've worked with, then we want to set you up for success. And so, but yeah, January, February is kind of the slower months of the Smoky Mountain market.
That's super helpful. Raj, hope that answers your question there. And so with that said too, I'm curious, like, do you guys see like certain properties, certain style of property outperforming others? Like, do you see a bigger draw for larger homes, homes that can sleep, 10 plus, or are you seeing a larger draw for kind of smaller cabin style, 1 to 2 people of houses there?
I mean, you're really targeting two very different guest avatars, right? So, that's where it kind of circles back to budget. Like if you've got the budget to accommodate those larger 10 plus parties, you're going to make the most money there. Like, I mean, it's just the way that it works. And then also, you don't have as many investors in that price point. And so what really makes it great is not only do you not have as much buyer competition, up there in the higher sleep count cabins, you also don't have that much competition on the rental market as well, which makes for optimal numbers. Now, with that being said, that does not mean that all of your smaller bedroom count cabins are not performing because you can ask Brienne, she'll tell you the same. They are performing as long as the design is there and all of their amenities is added. And they're outperforming the market by a lot. So I think it's just super important to, before you even start looking, to figure out who you want to target. Do you want to target couples and small families, or do you want to target large groups?
Excellent. Yeah, and here's a huge question too. Like, what are like, the higher performing STRs in the area? Like, what do you see that they're doing any differently than, just the average Joe Schmo putting up Airbnb with some, Amazon kind of furniture? Like, what kind of amenities do you really see, stopping the scroll, making people wanting to invest in, or not invest, but what kind of homes do you see performing well? What kind of amenities do you see attracting, more guests in these area?
Yeah, so when you're on Airbnb, obviously the properties that are gonna have all the amenities, the wow factor, the experiences there are gonna be the ones that are booked first. And so when people are booking for larger groups, especially me as a mom, when I'm booking, I'm looking at things that my kids can be entertained with. And so the larger properties are gonna have more room to add those amenities. So when you're looking at just a basic cabin, 6 bedrooms, six bathrooms, and a pool, and it's very bland, I'm gonna skip over right over that when I'm booking. I'm gonna go for the ones that have awesome themed rooms, that have bunk rooms, for my kids to be able to play in there so that I could be upstairs playing a card game, or something that the pool is fun and inviting and an experience, because people are spending a lot of money to come and they want that experience. They want to be able to look back and talk about this property, want to come back for more. And so with that, pools are definitely a must for those larger cabins, just to beat some of the competition that's out there. Murals, as little as that may seem that you're spending, it is a huge wow factor, and it is something that people are not going to forget. And so, if you can add murals in the game room, the pool room, even the kid bunk room, that is just going to make your property a step higher than other people. Um, Same with like arcade games and games for kids to have. And so anything that you can add, even the littlest touch, on patios. If you are not aware of the Smoky Mountain Market, we are in the mountains. And so there's not a lot of yard space. So with that, we have to get creative and see what our patios can hold. So you see people have little mini bowling alleys on it. They have little string lights. I mean, $50 at Lowe's, go get some string lights. The little green walls, little things like that are gonna give your reviews, are gonna have people want to continue to book, and it's gonna keep them entertained while there, and then they're just gonna keep coming back.
That's great. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, these short-term rentals, they're businesses, right? And any business is gonna, thrive once they start having like repeat occupancy, repeat guests, people coming back to the same Airbnb, to create like similar memories. And at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people are looking for now, right? They're looking for those Instagrammable moments, those nights by the hot tub, those movie nights, kind of staying in with the family, whatever it is, right? You want to be providing experiences, having opportunities to create memories. And yeah, those are all super, super helpful information there, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and you just
Um,
up as well, theaters, that's another huge one. Kids love to just go into a theater and have a movie night and keep them entertained, so that's, another one that I forgot that you just brought up.
Yes, definitely. Keep the kids busy. That way, mom and dad could just relax for a little bit, right? At the end of the day, this is most reason why people are going out to the market is to have a vacation, right?
Yep.
But cool, yeah. So Raj actually asked an excellent question here. And I hear this question asked a lot on our market match calls. People want to know about the laws and regulations around short-term rentals in this area. Are you seeing any areas that are, super tight on restrictions? Any areas that are super lax on restrictions? What are some of your like go-to spots for short-term rentals in this market?
Yeah. So the good thing about our market and the reason we have so many investors look at our market is because we have little to no restrictions when it comes to short term rentals here. The only time you're ever going to find restrictions when it comes to short term rentals is just your HOA neighborhoods who don't allow STRs, or overnight rentals per se. Um, but that's the great part about it is, you know, we don't have any at all. Our primary revenue for our county is tourism. We thrive off of that. That is our bread and butter, if you will, as one would say here in Tennessee. But the thing about it is you've literally only got to have your STR permit, which if you sleep less than 12 costs $250 a year. And then if you sleep more than 12, it goes up a little bit, but that's it. That's all you have to have. And then of course your business license and you're good to go. And that's it. We don't have really any restrictions, like I said, other than neighborhood specific.
Hmm. Wow, and that seems like super attainable, right? And I'm curious too, you guys, like obviously this market attracts investors across all price points, it sounds like. But are you seeing more investors coming in with like portfolios that are already established or like first time investors? Like who do you see really driving short-term rental purchases in this area?
So I think it is definitely both. I have a good range of both. And that's because the people who have come to me as first time investors are continuing to purchase. And so I just went under contract last night on a second $1 million property for a client who bought 9 months ago, and everyone told him, "Do not buy in this market, it's oversaturated," and he bought, and he I get messages all the time, and I screenshot them, I save them, I post them on my social media, where people are like, "I'm so glad I bought in this market. I'm so glad I listened to you, and we were looking at purchasing in other markets, but now we want to reinvest in the Smokies again." So, we get a lot of those, people who already have cabins here, people from other investors from other um, areas across the United States. They see our low taxes. They see how easy it is to get a short term rental because the restrictions are so little and all different price points. And so, but I do have a good range of buyers who are first time investors, and we help them start from the ground zero on that and really get them introduced to what they need to do. We have all the vendors, we have everything you need to succeed, no matter what price point you're in, and no matter if you're self managing or hiring a property management company. And so I say it's a good mix. But once you buy one here and you listen to what we recommend, you're definitely going to want to buy more.
That is awesome. Yeah, I know we hear a lot on our market match calls. A lot of people are, kind of scared to invest in the area. We hear a lot of talk about competition. We hear a lot of talk about saturation, and those words are definitely assuring for a lot of our, kind of new coming investors, I'm sure, to hear like, hey, this market may be a good fit for you guys, right? Um, Perfect. And then like,
And then
here's
can I
another
jump
good
in
one
on
here.
the
Yeah,
saturation
please,
part just because
absolutely.
I
Go
hear
ahead.
that so much? And our
Yeah.
market, I always say, is saturated with owners who don't know what to do. And so you do see a lot of properties on the market where people have bought the last year or two and then they're selling. But if you buy smart, you buy the correct property and you use the vendors that we recommend and you follow those steps, you're going to be in that position to where you're going to be coming back to us to want to buy more. People who buy properties who turn around and sell them and aren't making that good of money off of them are people who buy properties that are very bland. They're not putting money into them. It's not turnkey. It's not ready to go. And so you can't just buy, step away, and just think you're going to make all of this money. It's a job. You do have to put some effort into it. And whether we find a great deal that's turnkey and ready to go, or we find a deal where we have vendors that can help you get it up to par with being a top 5% Airbnb, VRBO, that really is going to push you outside the competition. Like I said, I get all of these messages. I got one the other day, and I always bring this type of stuff up is he's in the 1%, top 1% on Airbnb in the area just by adding little touches. And I don't even think he spent $10,000 because it was a newer property, but he just added some amazing aspects to the property that just made it stand out more than new construction, right? Like you shouldn't have to go in and remodel, but he added string lights, he added an accent wall, he added some, photo ops, different things like that. And so it's competitive, but if you do it right, you're going to stand out in this market.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and a lot of our investors here, speaking to some of the more experienced investors with this one, a lot of our experienced investors kind of have their brand, established already. They're on their third or fourth short-term rental. They kind of know what they're looking for. They know, what kind of design and stuff like that that they're going for. And especially if they've done their research in the market, and I'm sure, with your guys' connections, they're able to take a house that is, um, like you said, saturated with investors that don't know what they're doing, right? So they're able to take one of those homes and really turn it into a show-stopping experience, something that is going to book, super high occupancy, and generate them a really great average daily rate, which is excellent. But cool, yeah. So I'm curious too, guys. Like, do you have any like favorite, recent transactions that you've done? Any cool stories that you can tell?
I think the biggest one that I've had recently, and I'll let Brian piggyback off of this because I know she had some too.
I know.
Um,
Tell me.
I think the coolest one that I have. Brian, do you want to take this? I'm sorry, my kids
Yeah,
are
no, you're good.
being active.
So I think it's just awesome in general seeing clients. One of them, and I'll kind of give a couple ideas, but they bought a new construction, a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. They ended up adding some amenities outside. They did a little fire pit because the property allowed so, with it being a little bit flatter on the side. Some string lights around it, some hanging benches. They did, like I said, just a couple things to kind of spice up the kids' room, little things like that. Where the people previously that had had it for about 6 months and really weren't doing well. They were surprised because it was a new construction. My people bought it, and she texted me and said, "This property, like we are booked." We are booked way far in advance. You don't see that as often for smaller properties, 1 to 2 bedrooms. They're cheaper. It's a market where people can book last minute, and so those smaller cabins get booked, but it's more last minute booking. So the fact that she was booked 5 months with very little dates, I mean, that was just amazing to see. Other properties, just what they can do with the property, it made 40,000, and they turn around and they're like, "Wow, I'm so happy I listened to you on buying this property because now we're at 100,000." And they were very nervous at first buying it because if it only made 40,000, they thought, "Okay, well, I'm only gonna make 40,000." And so after running comps and sending them everything, just like their trust in us on what we would do and what we wouldn't do, because people send us properties all the time that are beautiful properties, but they're not the right location. And so they really take a leap in faith in us and being like, "Okay, I know this one may not be aesthetically what you want in this price point because you see something a little bit nicer, but further away." And they just take that trust in us, and it really ends up um, excelling. And we get those messages more often than not that, "Wow, thank you so much because these are absolutely crushing it." And just people wanting to buy more and coming back to us. So we get these forever clients. We're not a one and done type of real estate company. Like we want continued clients. And if we can't help you here, then we have so many agents in Savvy that we can send you to, and we just keep that tie with everybody, and it becomes a friendship at the end.
Yeah, Brian, you're so right. The Savvy network is so strong. We're growing every day. It's so cool to see, in the notes, like someone that we spoke to a year ago, they purchased two properties. They're looking for their third, right? And more times than not, yeah, I just hear some incredible reviews and some, a lot of our clients are just raving about their experience working with Savvy agents. Specifically, it's the networks that they're really, really utilizing, like how you guys said earlier in the call, like you guys have people for design, you have people for amenity ad, you have your general contractors. So this just makes the experience for, first of all, like remote investing that much easier for clients out of state, and then first time clients also who are just looking for like a little bit of hand holding, like, hey, like we got your back, we know exactly what we're doing out here. That trust is huge, right?
And another thing to touch on, I just closed a $2 million property from clients in Hawaii. Like they can't come all the time. It was not furnished at all. They got a credit. And so being able to help them after close, just go let people in, to let people come by, little things that they need help on. "Hey, can you run to the property, do this for me?" And just getting everything ready. Like if they can do it in Hawaii, you can do it anywhere else. And so she has relied heavily on our vendor list and then what we recommend. And so she's actually coming here in 2 weeks, and she has not been able to see just, just besides pictures and stuff like that, what the property's like. So we keep close contact, and she was like, "Hey, will you be there for the reveal with me? Like, you helped us get to this point. We want you to this reveal." So just seeing things like that and being close with our clients and seeing their design come to life is just really special.
That's awesome. And I mean, yeah, you guys heard it here first, right? Like if they can do it all the way from Hawaii, you can do it from anywhere, right? That's great. That's beautiful. Yeah, Bradley, did you have anything to speak on about that?
Yeah, like I think just trusting us is the biggest thing. Like I've got one not in Hawaii, but we are under contract right now and she's from California and we've got an insane deal set up on a 6 bedroom for under 1 million, which is absolutely unheard of. It needs a complete rehab. But it is absolutely once we're said and done, we've already got the designer in place. I think that's another thing that really just makes us stand apart is we're not just your okay, go through the deficiencies, help you figure the deficiencies, and then see you buy type of agent. We are okay. So this is what you need to do. Step one, obviously we're going to get our inspection scheduled, but we're also, while we're in the inspection period, we're also going to get our designers in there. I'm going to start a group message with the designer. On top of that, we're going to get our contractors in play with this too. So we've already got this big team built for you and your property to make sure you are succeeding right out the gate before the property is ever even yours. So I think it's just super important to kind of bounce off of Brienne and it's so important to trust us because I know at the end of the day, this is one of the largest purchases of your life. And, this is your future we're playing with here, and we don't take that lightly. And we are here to make sure that your investment is well worth it, short term and long term. And I think that if you put your trust in us, you'll see that we can do just that for you.
Wow, that's incredible. I want to give you, $100,000 to invest in a property for me. Bradley just talking like that. But cool, yeah. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about the success that we see our investors experiencing here. Curious, like, what kind of, mistakes do you guys typically see in this market? Like, what kind of mistakes are like easily avoidable that you see some investors making in this area?
I think I've touched on this before a little bit too, but it's just buying a property at the cheapest you can and thinking that it's going to make as much money as possible and then being shocked when it's not and then coming to us because it's an investment. And so buying the cheapest property possible is not generally the way to really excel here because it is competitive. Um, so I say that's the biggest thing, like, "Hey, why isn't my property doing well?" Okay, well, we had given you all the steps to excel, and you have not taken those steps to proceed forward with that, and so that's why. Another big thing here is, revenue managers, and so if your property is not doing as great, we have revenue managers, we have property managers, different vendors that are gonna help you boost your bookings and your revenue for that. And so I would say I tell a lot of people about revenue managers. And if they don't take that trust in me, then I'm getting those messages. Why isn't my calendar booked? What can I do differently? Same with professional photos. Someone also sent me one previously that said, "Why isn't my cabin booking?" And she took photos with her phone, or she used the photos for real estate, like the listing. Photos on a real estate listing are completely different than Airbnb photos that you need for rental listings. And so I would say definitely invest in a revenue manager and definitely invest in professional photos. And with that, I think that's the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing on properties that are set up for success.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to bounce off of that too. I think a lot of investors kind of hit themselves in the foot when it comes to trying to save as much money as possible on their investments. Because I had somebody the other day tell me, I said, I'm going to bring in this designer. And they were like, nope, I'm going to do the design myself and bank the rest of the money. And I'm like, well, number one, you can't do that. Number two, you're not going to be successful. You're just not. And the problem is you're not going to make money trying to save money in this market. I'm going to say it again a little bit slower because it kind of sounds confusing. You're
Tell
not
him,
going to
Bradley.
make money trying to save money. You've got to spend money to make money. And so I think it's just super important to not get caught up on, you know, what's going out, because you need to be looking at the bigger picture of what is going to happen after you make that really hard investment of not wanting to invest that extra cash that you do have. I think it's super important to realize that saving can hurt you. Um, and you need to give your property your all if you want it to bring you everything it's got.
And I wish I could tell you, I just need to start, like, documenting it, how many times I've seen the same, like, Hobby Lobby bear picture in a cabin or just a random sign places because they just went to Hobby Lobby and just got, like, all these deals and just threw it in, like, it's not even strategic on how they did it, and so I'm like, "Hobby Lobby," and I had people who are buying properties going and being like, "I saw that at Hobby Lobby, that, you know, that does not look good," and so it's definitely making its run around the Smoky Mountains with the Hobby Lobby similar decor.
That's hysterical. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how, so actually we just partnered with Funkit Interior also. Savvy just did a huge partnership with Funkit. So guys, like we have designers for you. Like utilize our designers. Like
Yes.
we're gonna be able to help you out. Like don't just go shop at Hobby Lobby. Stop, buying the cheap Amazon furniture. Like put some thoughtfulness and consideration into, curating an environment and an atmosphere, right? Like you said, like string lights go a really long way. It's like 50
Yes.
bucks at Home Depot. Why are you not buying it, right?
Well, and you
Um,
spend money to make money,
yeah,
and I think people think too, like, designers are so expensive. We do all price points on designers. So even if it's just a little amount or you need to furnish a whole cabin and spend 300,000, like, we have it from the very bottom to the very top. So if you're buying a property, we can fit in your budget with getting a designer. It'll go a lot further that way.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and I mean, like, as far as so here's a good question for you guys, right? Like, I know we've talked a little bit about seasonality, right? You're saying like, January and February, these are typically the colder months, right? But like for, summertime, springtime, fall, right? Obviously you guys get a huge like leaf season draw out there too. Like what's your favorite season out in this market? Like what do you guys love about what do you guys love about the Smokies?
I think what I love the most about the Smokies is there's something to do for everyone. Literally, you want to go ride go karts with your kids, it's there. You want to go hike. You and your husband want to get away from those kids and get in touch with nature. Go hike. You've got the lake just 20 minutes down the road. If you want to take your boat out, go out on the boat. I think that what makes our market so amazing, and it's why I love it the most, is there is just a plethora of things around us. You got your football enthusiasts, coming into town in the fall. UT is just an hour away. So go watch a football game. I mean, really, we're in such a central location and we are also very close to the North Carolina mountains. You can actually make a day trip out of it if you were staying in the Smokies. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is I can go up there and never run out of things to do.
Yeah, I agree on that too. I mean, there's always festivals and every holiday, that whole month, that whole season is always something new to do. So even if you come to Dollywood in the fall, it's going to be different than going to Dollywood in the spring. And so I was sitting here thinking about it. I don't think I have a favorite time because every season there's something different in the Smokies to do that I mean, I have stuff my favorite things to do in every season of it, and I've lived here for a couple of years now, and I've still not done everything, um, so, I mean, you can make any time of the year to come, you're gonna find amazing stuff to do.
That's awesome, guys. And yeah, I mean, it's so curious because like you think about like, the geography of the area, obviously it's beautiful, you were up in the mountains, you got all the mountain views, scenic mountain views, awesome wildlife and stuff like that. But people ask so many times, they're like, why is this area so good? Why is this area performing so well? Why are so many people buying short-term rentals? And who the heck is going to the Smokies for vacation, right? But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's super insightful. But yeah, I mean, as far as, things that are driving your occupancy, we know that you guys are seeing some super high ratings out there. Yeah, spring, summer, fall, winter, you guys are booked. It's beautiful to hear. And it sounds like there's things for, repeat clients also, right? Like you come up in the summertime, you go out on the boat, you come out in the springtime, you go to Dolly World, you come out in the fall, you're looking at leaves, right? It sounds like there's always something to do. And that answers the question, right? Like, why are people going to this area for vacation? Why are people going out here to experience, short-term rental properties? Is because there's always stuff to do, which is awesome. But cool, yeah. And that kind of brings me into my next question. We might have answered it already here, but like, why should our investors here, and we're gonna start wrapping up here in a second here too, guys, but like, why should investors like work with you guys? Like, why should they come to the Smokies? Like, aside from, their projected revenues, aside from, the occupancy ratings and all that like number stuff, right? Like, why are people considering the Smokies for their short-term rentals?
We have low taxes. When I tell people the amount of taxes our properties have, they're like, "A month?" I'm like, "No, that's a year." And so just that alone, it just makes it super appealing. And then we don't have any state income tax either. And so people, you're making more, you have the ability, all different price points. And so I think with it just being like a year-round tourist area, with it being attracting just multiple, honeymooners and families, hikers and amusement park enthusiasts, families. I mean, all of that aspects kind of play in. It's just such a smart decision when it comes to it fits for everybody. And then if you're going to save money on taxes and you're going to save money on state income tax and have tourists here year round. I think last year was 14 million visitors. And if you know our area, it's a smaller area, and so we are able to just attract to a lot of people, and that's why we have so many repeat customers and so many clients who've bought all around the United States, continuing to buy here. And you won't regret it. If you listen to everything that we recommend for you, use our vendors, work with the properties that we let you know are going to be good deals. Trust in us, put the amenities in that we are suggesting. You're going to absolutely crush it.
I think it's important to add on to that too, a little heed of caution and a little bit of tooting our own horn in a sense. But, I just keep thinking of myself as an investor. And I think if I was coming into the Smoky Mountains for the very first time and not knowing a thing about the market and not knowing what it takes to be successful here, there isn't another set of agents that I would want to use other than us. And I'm not just saying that because it's us. I'm genuinely saying that because I don't know of any other agents in our market that goes to the levels that we go to when it comes to what we provide to our clients. Like, and like Brian said a minute ago, it doesn't just stop at the transaction with us. Like, so when you're closed, we're probably at your property helping you set up. Like, and I know there's so many agents up here who, that they might provide some things throughout the transaction, but at the end of the day, it is so scary to think about, you know, some of these agents out here that are promoting some of these cabins that are simply just not a good investment. And I think it's just super, super important to remember that if you're on this call today, you definitely need to be using a savvy agent because we have your absolute best interest in mind before, during, and after the transaction. And I think it's super important to just remember whether it's us or anybody else, they need to be fluent in short term rentals because while our market is amazing to invest in and you can absolutely change your life financially in this market, it can very well go the opposite direction with the rain guidance. So I think it's just super important to remember that at the end of the day, you need to make sure that whoever you're using up here, if it's not us, that they know what they're doing and they're putting you in a right investment.
Yeah, and another thing as well is I always say this, that anyone can be agents. And so you could have your local grocery store worker or your local doctor go and be an agent, but savvy agents are training every single week, multiple times a week. And even with how knowledgeable we are, we're continuing to learn and learn more about the market. And a lot of agencies just aren't doing that training, and things are changing every single day. And so with us, we're keeping up with that market. We're keeping up with what is needed, even 6 months ago, the market was different than what it is now. And so just trying to go back and forth and figure out what's going to be a good investment for you, we have that dialed in. And so just training, I don't care how well, like I think I'm seasoned. I thought I was seasoned 6 months ago. And just from now until then, I've learned so much, and there's just so much continuing education we do. So, yeah, like you definitely need someone who's going to have your back and continue to push for you even after closing.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's why people choose to work with Savvy, right? We're there with you guys every step of the way. But that's beautiful. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And for the chat, for everybody who's listening here, we're gonna start wrapping up here in a minute. So we'll do like a quick Q&A session. Throw your questions in the chat. Anything that we didn't talk about or that you want to hear, or if you were a little late to the conversation, just throw it in there. We'll be happy to cover it again briefly for you guys. Or if you have any like really pressing information, throw it in the chat. We want to see what you guys got going on. We want to hear your questions. We'll give you time and space for that. If no one says anything in the chat, we'll probably just wrap up here in a second. But I do see here that Amber was asking, if she can get a recording of this conversation. And yeah, guys, so this is going to be available on our YouTube channel. So you can check it out, Savvy STR Agents .YouTube. We're going to be posting this video probably tomorrow or a little bit later on today. So check it out there. Um, but yeah, awesome. Awesome, Raj. Hey man, so great to see you out here, brother. Let's see what we got. So yeah, usually, how much do we need to pay for a property manager or management team, right? This is a huge question, and we hear this, kind of nationwide. We hear people asking this for all the markets that we have agents in. Like, obviously, it's a little bit different from one market to the next, but in the Smokies here, like, what are you guys seeing property managers usually charging for their services?
It definitely differs. On average, about 20%. I've seen some property managers go to 40%. Would not recommend that is a lot of money. But revenue managers, 10%. So you're really able to it's kind of a range. I'll say 20% on average. I don't know, Bradley, if that's kind of what you're saying. Someone that we just went on a contract a couple days ago, that property manager has 18%. So I will count that as like a precaution on that. But if you end up not needing a property manager and you do want a revenue manager, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. But we check in all of that before we put you under contract as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that, property management isn't your only option. Like, if you're worried about how you would be able to manage the property and you just feel like property management is your only option, that's actually not. Revenue management, where they solely focus on your revenue, is a great thing combined with a co-host to just help you manage um, the messages you get from your guests and stuff, and help you optimize your listing on all the rental sites. And you can usually save a little bit by doing that combination versus just a property manager. And statistically, we see our best numbers across the board, self-managed with a revenue manager. And then right below that, is your co-hosted properties. And then property managers is usually where we see our lowest income. Now, I'm not saying that and saying that all property managers are bad, but you just got to be very selective on who you choose to manage your property. But I recommend to all of my clients, that, if possible, do revenue manager with a co-host rather than a property manager.
And a lot of people will say like, "Oh, Brian, but I live in California. How am I going to do that?" That's why we have our vendor sheets. That's why we go out and we find the right handyman. We have the right um everyone associated with what needs to be done. And so you're dealing with all the co-host stuff, but if something happens and you need someone to come out and repair a hole in the wall, we have handyman. We have everyone for you to keep on hand so that you don't have to be here to do that. You make a phone call. And so we set you up for that.
Awesome, guys. That's all super helpful, I'm sure, for our investors who are looking to come into this market. Um, do you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about here? I know we kind of covered a lot, so
I think the biggest thing that I kind of wanted to touch base on was Bree and I were actually talking about this a little bit yesterday, and I think it's important to know what works for one market might not work for another. So, a minute ago, Morgan, whenever you were like, we get quite a few experienced investors and they kind of know what they're doing. Um, that's great, but you need to be cautious whenever you're coming into a new market. You need to remember that at the end of the day, while you might not be a new real estate investor, you are a new investor into that market and you need to learn what works for our market um, versus whatever other market you're in. Because the thing about it is and I'm going to use a pickleball court, for example. Me and Bree were just talking about this yesterday, but a pickleball court is a 70, sometimes $80,000 investment. And right now, we're not really seeing much of a return from those. As of now, that could change, but right now we are not seeing that. But over in, I know the Asheville market, that is a very popular amenity to have. But it's just not an amenity they're looking for in the Smokies. So I think it's just super, super important that if you don't take our guidance and use all of the vendors that we recommend, because they'll tell you this. But if you're hard headed and you decide not to and you think you can do it on your own, just remember you need to be looking at and researching what amenities work in our market versus what doesn't.
beautiful. That's so good to hear. Yeah, and you're so right. Like, and that's one of the reasons why we're specialists in these areas that we work in, right? This is why we refer them to you guys because we trust that you know exactly what you're talking about. When we have a conversation with someone on one of our market match calls, we can trust by giving them, passing them over to you guys that you're going to take care of them. You're going to, send them the right properties and, they can expect real savvy experience. And here's a question here for you guys too. Like, what is that? Like, what can our clients expect from working with you? Like, after our introduction, after we put them on your calendar, right? Like, what does that transition typically look like after they jump on a call with you?
So once we get on a call and we kind of discuss what you're looking for, what time frame, what purchase price, everything like that, then we're looking for a property specific to you. So we're not going to set you up on a random MLS email that's going to be going off to you because not every property makes sense. And so I'm going to be going through the MLS every single day and sending you properties directly correlated with what we talked about and what's going to give you the best revenue. And then on there as well, I'm going to explain, hey, this property is beneficial because, and then I'm going to give you all of those associations with why this property is a good investment. And so from there, if you are out of state, we do a lot of video showings, um, whether it be just on video or we do a FaceTime. Not very often they actually come to town. So if you feel like, hey, I want to buy a property, I can't come to town, that's completely okay. We will take care of it for you. But from there, then we really try to just narrow down the right property for you. So you're not going to be blown up with all these emails and MLS links with properties that are just a waste of time. So with that, it's really dialed down individually on what each client is looking for. So I may have multiple clients in the same price point, but every individual is so different on their outcome. And so it just makes things great and very personalized when working with us.
Yeah, and I think too, I think the biggest success stories that we have with our clients is, the ones that once again listen to us. If we're, because you can hold up this process, you can make this process complicated as our client, not even realize it. But usually whenever we send you properties over, we send you like all of the numbers and stuff that we have. And we have, like everything that you're going to need. We answer all of your questions, and it can be super easy in any market because I even do it myself as an investor to get caught up on kind of the emotional side of it. And well, what if I fail? Well, what if this happens? And I've had somebody ask this the other day, what if the septic busts? And I'm like, you're overthinking this. At the end of the day, you've got to have your full trust in us and trust that we're going to put you in the right investment, and we're not going to put you in something that's just going to fall down the second you buy it. And that the numbers we tell you are legit. And I think it's super important also that whenever we get into this process, a lot of our clients love to come to us, and like it never fails. I actually have never had a singular client not come to me and say this. Well, Air DNA says that it can only produce this much. So how are you getting this number? And it's simple. Air DNA is incorrect. And there is a lot of their data that it has a hard time playing catch up. There's sometimes where it's correct and it's like spot on, but like the other day, prime example, my client, they bought a $1.4 million cabin. They threw $100,000 into it, got a 75K credit, and they've got like $216,000 on the books this year. And Air DNA says it's making $63,000. So it's super important not to get caught up on the analyst, and I'm going to butcher this word, analyst paralysis, and 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 talk yourself out of the deal. Because prime example, I posted one in our savvy investor group, and it was listed at, I believe, 524,000, producing 100K in a year. And somebody messaged me wanting to lock it down, and then I got the offers wrote up, and they asked me 40 something questions and then missed out on the deal because they were scared. Simple as that. Scarcity killed what could have been a great deal for them. So super important to just trust us whenever we send you these properties, and know that at the end of the day, you will lose out on these because we have other clients that do fit the criteria for these properties, and the property could be gone. So it's important to act quick.
That's awesome. Thanks, Bradley, for that, and Brianne as well. We did have a couple more questions pop in the chat here. Guys, this is going long. We were only expecting this to go like about 45 minutes, so we're a little bit over, but that's okay. We'll just kind of steamroll through these here. Raj again is asking, about what kind of things the property or the revenue manager is going to handle, home fixing, guest dispute, you know, are these kind of things that your revenue managers are handling, or do you have separate property managers for these things as well?
Yeah.
the
So your revenue, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'll say the revenue manager is strictly handling revenue. So they're going to be going in there every single day and adjusting rates and making it so based on data that people are booking. And with that too, okay, well, why can't I use the Airbnb strategic pricing? Because just like you see at Zillow, just like AirDNA, they were saying, it is going to be something where they're pulling data. I'm so sorry. They're pulling data from everything. It doesn't matter if the property's completely run down or if the property's completely renovated and doing great. And so just like that, the revenue manager is just going to do the revenue. Strategic pricing is so hit or miss. It doesn't really help that I've seen. And so a revenue manager is, and just based off what they have told me, it's about 20% increase in in revenue that you're going to get just from this revenue manager, if not more. That's on the low end. And so they're just making sure your property stays booked. If you need someone who is going to handle disputes and going to handle handyman and handle everything like that, you're going to have to get a property manager. But it's something that you can chat with us about too if you're interested in the Smokies, and we can help you navigate self-managing, because all of that can be done virtually. Like I said, we have a million vendors that, not a million, we have the best vendors, the top 3 in each category. But we have them for everything. And so we're really going to be able to help you navigate that from outside of the revenue area. But yeah, they're just going to handle revenue strictly for that.
Awesome. Cool. And then someone else was asking here too. Amber was curious, about a hot list for amenities. I know we kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but I mean, just if you could run them off real quick, like hot tub, string lights, throw a mural in the bedroom, right? Put a cheeky neon sign. People love that stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that I'm so sorry. I have a 6-year-old.
It's all right.
Um, I think the biggest thing is hot tub. You will not compete at all if you do not have a hot tub. That is the biggest thing. And most properties that you buy, no matter the price point, typically already comes with that part of the furniture package. But I think I'm so sorry. I think from that, I think a big amenity that I would list in my top 2, just as much as a hot tub, is a sauna. That's becoming very, very popular up here, and something guests are starting to search for. And then a pool. A lot of guests love an indoor pool. That would be my top 3. Brienne, I'm sure that yours varies a little bit, so definitely tell your top 3, but that's my top 3. Oh, we lost her again, I
Oh,
think.
that's all right. Yeah, that's okay. Well, thank you so much, Bradley. Lastly here, Raj is coming in with the great questions, man. Appreciate you tuning in here and look forward to talking with you on the phone a little bit later here. Raj is asking, is it like a lottery type situation? Is it easy to get a property out here? Are there some months that are better to buy properties in than others?
I think the biggest thing to remember, is not necessarily is it easy, because it is fairly easy to give you a general answer to your question. Yes, it is easy. Um, However, we look for our clients here at Savvy. We look for properties that by the time your design and execution is said and done, you're at the top 2% of the market, right? So we go that extra mile, as Bill Faith likes to say, that 2 extra steps to try and find you that diamond in the rough. And so we spend a lot of extra time. So is it easy for you? Yes, because we do all of the hard work for you. We do all of the digging. We find the property, we run the numbers on it. We don't even send it to you if the numbers make sense. We might pull the property, run our numbers, do what we need to do, and then find out that the numbers don't make sense. We're not sending that to you. So for you as our client, it's easy. It's us that does all the hard work for you.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for helping everybody out here, shining a little light into the market that we all love, the Smoky Mountains. I know we get so much curiosity coming out of there. We have investors asking about you guys all over the country. So, super happy to have the opportunity to connect with you guys. Really, thank you so much for sharing here. And thank you, everyone who joined us here as well. And yeah, so I mean, if you guys are watching this right now and you're thinking about investing in a short-term rental, one of the biggest mistakes that we see is people jumping into a market before they're, truly aligned on their strategy. So this is why we offer our market match calls. And this is just a quick conversation where we help you clarify your investment goals, compare STR markets, understand different strategies and price points here, and also, we're going to be able to determine if the Smokies are actually going to be the right fit for you to accomplish your goals. So yeah, I mean, If they are, happily, we would love to connect you guys directly with Bradley and Brienne to start exploring opportunities in the Smoky Mountain market. There's going to be a link in the chat and description to book a market match call here. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate your time here, and we hope to connect with you guys soon. But
Yes.
yeah, guys,
Please
that's
reach
going to be
out to
it.
us.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Guys.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, have a great day. And
Bye.
yes, thank you guys so much. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.